Hey guys, I thought I would do another reading vlog. I haven't done many of these. This is the second one I've done. And as you can tell from the title, I'm going to be vlogging the Graveyard book by Neil Gaiman. This is the third Neil Gaiman book that I've actually read or I'm about to. The first two were Stardust and Ocean at the End of the Lane, which I thought was okay. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't great, but they were okay books. So I thought I would do a unique vlog. This one I'm going to be vlogging entirely in a graveyard. Yes, I'm going to be reading the whole book from beginning to end, intro and acknowledgements, everything in an actual cemetery. Obviously I'm not going to be reading it all in one day, but I thought it would be appropriate for me to read it, and I wouldn't say cool, but interesting to read it in an actual cemetery. And plus, this video is not going to contain any spoilers. Obviously, I'm going to be talking about characters and what they've been doing, but I'm going to be trying my best to steer clear away from spoilers. This isn't going to be a review. I'm going to be doing a separate review from this video, so hopefully you enjoy it. I'll do my best. So, just some rules. Obviously, I'm only going to be allowing myself to read the Graveyard book while on the premises of a cemetery. This one is the closest one to my house, so it's really good for me. Number two, any food or drink that I bring with me, because I'm going to be here a while. I'm not going to be spending the whole day in the cemetery because that's creepy, on itself. But any food or drinks that I bring with me, I'm going to be doing the responsible thing and chucking the rubbish in a bin. If I can't find a bin in the cemetery, I'll be holding on to the rubbish and disposing of it in an actual bin that I find. Next, I am not going to be interacting with any of the gravestones. I might wander around and have a look at the names on the stones, but I'm not going to touch them, I'm not going to interact with them, but I might look at the stones and read the names. Next, I am going to be super respectful to any visitors and staff that work here. Right now there are some gardeners that are cutting the grass, but I'm going to be super respectful for people's space, and I'm not going to do anything that's going to be disrespectful to visitors and staff. Hey guys, this is my first 50-page check-in. First off, sorry if you can hear some noise in the background. There is a gardener cutting some grass. So my overall thoughts on the Graveyard book so far is really good. I really liked it. We see how our main character, who was a baby, escaped when his family was being murdered. His mother, father, and older sibling, which I thought was going to be a brother, but it turned out that it might be a sister. And he escaped when the killer called Jack was trying to get him, and he went into the cemetery. And it's really nice about how when we first are introduced to the occupants of this cemetery or this graveyard, that I thought that they were real life people, but it turned out that's what Neil Gaiman described them to be, as real life people, but they turned out to be dead people. And I like the relationship between the Owens, which found the boy, which they named Nobody, or Bods, which is a shortened version of his name, and he was given Owens as his surname, so his name is Nobody Owens. So I thought that was kind of cool. Mr. Owens is kind of apprehensive about the whole thing, and Miss Owens is kind of like a motherly figure. She wants to protect Nobody, or Bods, because in the graveyards, Nobody's mother came to Miss Owens and said, "Can you protect my boy?" And she feels really protective over him now. And we are introduced to Scarlett, who is a girl that Nobody sees, and he becomes friends with her, and how they form a bond and friendship with each other, and she thinks that he's imaginary, and he's making up all these stories about all these residents in this graveyard, and yeah, she gives me the impressions of being a bit of a Hermione Granger, a bit of a know-it-all, but but she's a good character. I like her so much. So right now, Scarlet and Nobody are in a crypt, or was in a crypt, and they came across this unique individual. Can't remember what his name is. He says he was like the like keeper of this crypt and protecting it from people. And there was all these voices that said that they were the Slur. Not sure what that was all about, but yeah, I'm liking it so far. Hey guys, this is my next 50-page check-in. I'm up to 100 pages of The Graveyard book by Neil Gaiman, and so far it's been a bit up and down today. Some of it I've enjoyed, some of it I haven't. We've actually seen the relationship with Nobody and Scarlet, how she, after when they came out of the crypt, I'm pretty sure they were down there for a long time, and Scarlett's parents were really worried about her, and the police were involved, and Scarlett's parents said that she could only go to the cemetery once more, and then they had to move to Scotland, which nobody didn't know where Scotland was. And he was really sad about when Scarlett eventually went to the graveyard and basically said bye to him and just said, right, I do not know if you are real or imaginary, but you are the bravest person I know and you're my friends. And she also told him that he cannot stay in the graveyard all of his life. One day he's got to like venture out of the graveyard and start his own life and like do his own thing outside of the graveyard. And that was kind of baffling to Nobody, because the graveyard is all he has ever known. He actually knows about the outside world, but he has never experienced it. He's never witnessed it. He's never had to confront it. And even though he knows that he is safe within the graveyard, I'm pretty sure he doesn't know what happened to his parents and to his older sibling, and that he doesn't know the danger that he's actually in if he goes outside of the cemetery. And plus, Jack is actually not even mentioned in this section. And we find that Nobody is feeling a little bit down, and he was, I wouldn't say kidnapped, but taken by these ghouls to this dimension that was underneath the graveyard or cemetery, and it's kind of like a parallel version of the the cemetery, and how the ghouls were fearless, and how they were always eating stuff, and how they weren't afraid of anything, and how they wanted to make Nobody into one of them, even though he had no desire to be that. And we also find that his guardian, who is free to go in and out of the graveyard as he pleases, because if you are buried in the graveyard, then you are restricted only to that section. You cannot leave it, which I thought was an interesting concept. But when he goes, for some reason, we never know where or why he leaves. Maybe to travel. We find that there is this woman that is responsible for teaching Nobody, and Nobody doesn't like her, and that results in him running away. And when he's in the ghoul universe, and when he's trying to escape, he comes across this big black grey hound that's got fire in its eyes, and it's massive. And we find out that this is something called a hound of God, or a god's hound, and this woman is this hound. And then in the end they accept each other. They say, oh well, that she's actually not that bad. And where I've actually left right now, there is this talk about a witch that's buried in a part of the graveyard which is not on holy ground, which hasn't been blessed by a priest, and it's where all the criminals and bad people, or supposedly bad people, are buried, and that's where I've actually left off right now. So yeah, it was a good section, really, really good. I'm kind of wondering whether Jack, the murderer, is going to turn up. He's probably bound to. And whether nobody's going to find out who he is and what happened to his parents and why this happened to his parents and his sibling. Because, like Scarlett said, he cannot stay within the graveyard all of his life. One point he has got to leave it, whether he's in danger or not, whether he likes it or not. He has got to leave this cemetery and actually lead his own life and be his own person. But we'll have to see where it goes. Hey guys, this is another 50-page check-in. I am currently at page 150, and it's been okay today. It's been alright. It hasn't been the best section today, but it has had moments in it which I've really enjoyed. We discover that Bod has found a witch in the unblessed portion of the graveyard, which is called Pottersfield, I think it was called, and how he has interacted with the witch and how the witch has told Bod about her time when she was accused of supposedly being a witch, and how she was tortured and killed. She was drowned and burned, so kind of a bit overkill. And she was saying, oh, I'm so sad because I don't have a gravestone, and I want to have one so people can remember me and know where I'm buried. And Bod is kind of like sympathetic towards her. He wants to help her out, and he wants to try to surprise her with a headstone that he has either made or found. I think that he wants to buy one, but they're like really expensive. So he goes out into the outside world, outside the cemetery or outside the graveyard, and he wants to try to find the headstone for the witch. And he goes back into the tomb where the slur is, and he takes the forbidden brooch thing that they're guarding in order to sell it so he can get money to buy a headstone. But when he does this, he's well, I wouldn't say kidnapped, but he's held against his will, because these sellers in this shop want to take the brooch and to try to find the rest of the treasure that Bod found the brooch in. And Jack, the killer that murdered Bod's original family, is mentioned, and I'm pretty sure he might have actually been seen at the end when they were having this kind of weird festival dance thing. It describes about a figure being seen that was all dressed in black. And I actually thought it was kind of cool about going back to the witch thing, about how I thought that she was going to try to trick Bod and try to deceive him, but no, it didn't go out that way, and she turned out to be a nice person, in the end. It's kind of surprising about how Neil Gaiman's actually writing out all these, I won't say weird or strange characters, but unusual characters that you expect to be evil and do evil things, but they turn out to be, misunderstood. It's really, really cool. And it's really interesting about how Bod is actually referring to the Owenses as his mum and dad, as his parents. And I'm like thinking, well, is he ever going to find out who his real parents were? So right now, where I am now, as I said, they are having this kind of dance with the living and the dead. Apparently the living can see the dead now, and they're dancing with each of them. Not entirely sure where that is going to go. And there's all these like white flowers that were picked from the cemetery, and everyone's wearing them. So I don't know if the flowers can give some people the ability to see the dead, so I'm not sure about that, but it's okay. I mean, I don't know if Neil Gaiman made up a lot of this stuff as he was going along, but it's definitely giving me that impression. But I'm just going along for the ride and seeing where it takes me. Hey guys, this is another 50-page check-in. I'm up to page 200, and yeah, it's been okay. This section, it's been really good. It's been really enjoyable. Obviously, as all my other sections, it hasn't been perfect. There has been a few things in it which I wasn't a massive fan of. It was okay, but for the majority of it today, I've really enjoyed it. So I finished up the section where they had that dance with the living and the dead, and how Bod was dancing with that woman that had all cobwebs for dresses, or cobwebs on her dress, or whatever, and she had this massive horse, and how she told Bod that everyone eventually gets to ride the horse, which I was thinking, is this horse a symbol of death? Does it transport people that have died to the land of the dead, you know? We have discovered that Bod has been made aware of his past, about how his parents and his older sister, who he obviously cannot remember, he was only a baby when they were taken from him, and how he was told that they were killed, and there's this man that's outside of the graveyard in the world somewhere that is still trying to find Bod, and Bod is trying to process this. He doesn't know how to, and he just accepts it, thinking, okay, there's somebody that's trying to kill me, but he's not. But there's not much urgency about why has this happened to me. And this has been brought up several times throughout this book as well, that Bod is a living person. He is not dead, even though he's grown up in the graveyard all of his life, and all he's ever known is the people that are buried in the cemetery. And he considers himself to be one of them, despite the fact that he has been told by several of them that he is not. He is a living person, and he will never be a part of that world, which is really sad. I mean, the cemetery is always ever known. That's always ever cared about. That's the only home he's ever truly had. And even his guardian has told him that he will never be a part of that world. Well, not yet anyway. He has to live his life. He has to experience the living world, experience what it means to be alive, and have all these experiences, because his guardian tells him that when he's dead, that's it. Your story is written. There is no more to your story to actually tell. The book is closed. The chapter's ended. It's basically game over. So there's that overhanging part of the story where ultimately Bod has got to venture out and leave the cemetery for good and experience life. So how Bod tries to experience life is that he goes to school to learn. We know that in the cemetery he's actually learned from the people that are buried there. He's also learned how to read from the tombstones and from several books that he has managed to find there. But he knows that he wants to go to school to try to get a proper education and to experience the world. And he finds these couple of bullies that intimidate younger students to steal from them, and in doing so they take money away from them. And Bod tries to stand up for these little kids and try to redeem the bullies, say, right, you cannot do this forever, you cannot be a bad person, you've got to change. And I think ultimately he does actually achieve that goal. He does try to make a difference in these bullies' lives and try to change them for the better. And we also find out a little bit about Jack, that he's a member of this organization that We don't really know what exactly goes on, but yeah, he is still held responsible by the top people there, that he has to try to find Bod and try to finish what he started. But we have no idea as of yet why. It's not really labelled in black and white why he has done this and why he has to kill Bod. So yeah, that's the section that I've got up to now. That's where I am with the story, and yeah, we'll have to see how it ultimately ends up and where it ultimately goes, because I've only got 100 pages left. Hey guys, this is another 50-page check-in. I'm up to 250 now. So because this is pretty much at the end of the book, or near the end, we're in the end game now, I won't be giving any spoilers away, so have no fear about that. And plus, I will try to be super vague as I can, but give you enough information if that made any sense. So this section today was okay. It was kind of a mixed bag, but it was a good section today. It really was. As I said, it was the last 100 pages, so it's near the end, so it was kind of wrapping up. We discover that Bod is still struggling with the fact that he is human and he's living in a graveyard, and eventually one day he will have to venture out of the cemetery into the real world. And there's this other character that has come back in this story. I won't say who it is because I don't want to spoil it, but I was kind of shocked when I discovered that this character was brought back into the storyline. It was kind of unnecessary, but hey, it's what Neil Gaiman wanted to do with the story, I suppose. But it was a nice surprise, it was a nice thing to discover. And we also find out that Bod's guardian, as well as some other of the characters within the graveyard, are in a cave for some weird reason. I'm not sure why. And we've gotten into the end game now, where Bod is confronted with his past and with Jack and the organisation of the Jacks. I'm not sure if that's what it's called, but that's what we refer to it as. He hasn't actually found out about why Jack did what he did, or the reason for it, or his motivation rather. And right now there is a big, I wouldn't say it, well, sort of a fight / confrontation in the graveyard. It feels a lot like Home Alone, but set in a graveyard, I'll say that. It's interesting, it's really good. I found myself struggling to stop at 50 pages today, as I wanted to find out what happens. But I am going to save the last 50 pages to the final day and see where the story goes. I'm really intrigued to see where this story eventually ends up. Hey guys, I have finished the Graveyard book. In this section of this video, I'm not going to give any description about what happened in the story, because as I said in the last clip, this is the end game now and I don't really want to give any description about what happens. But what I will say is the ending overall was a very satisfying conclusion of this book. Yes, there were things that I wasn't too keen on. This book isn't perfect, but what it is, it's a very emotional book. The book ended in a very sad way, but was the only logical way that it could have actually ended. I will say as well that we do get to know the reason why Jack killed Bod's family and the whole reason and motivation behind that, which I thought was a bit, I don't really want to say stupid, but their explanation only made sense if events played out how they actually did. And I'm like, well, if you did something different and if your plans were different, then the whole reason for you wanting to find Bod would have been altered. I know that probably doesn't make much sense if you haven't read the book, But it was a very good ending. It really was. I was so emotional in this book. I was really close to weeping and crying, and yeah, um, some characters left, and I'm really pleased that I read this. I really am. I know that this is my third book by Neil Gaiman that I've read. The first one, as I said at the start of this vlog, was Stardust and Ocean at the End of the Lane, which I still stand by with what I said at the start, was that they are both okay books, but this one, I know that this one isn't a masterpiece, but this book is definitely going to be in my top 10 of my favorite books of 2022. And because of this book, I am seriously thinking about starting Neverwhere sooner rather than later. So yeah, that's all I had to say, guys. This has been my vlog. Apologies if this hasn't been to your standards of vlogging. I'm very new to this, and I just wanted to document my time. As I said at the start, I have been very respectful in the graveyard. It's a nice day today, so there's been loads of people around, and everyone's obviously seen me, but I've not been in anyone's way. And all the food that I've been taking here, I've been putting in bins, and me vlogging in the graveyard has never been like, oh, it's been like humorous because I'm reading a book that's about a graveyard and I'm in a graveyard and it's, you know, haha, it's a very funny video. But it hasn't been like that for me. It's just been about the setting, you know. It's been about the setting, and if I've inspired you to do the same, then I implore you and I beg you guys to do what I have done and be respectful. But if you haven't read the Graveyard book, then I really recommend that you do. It's a awesome book that is emotional and yes, will make you feel like crying at times. But it's a good book, it really is. So yeah, that's all I had to say, guys. Thank you for watching yet again. Let me know what you think about this whole vlog, and please keep an eye open for my review, as I will be doing a separate review in a graveyard of the Graveyard book, so keep an eye open for that. It will be coming soon. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.